Birthdays for franchises are an interesting thing. It's not every day a franchise gets the lifespan to celebrate an anniversary. Some don't meet their 10th, 15th, 20th. You never know what will resonate with the general public and hardcore fans. Well, we have a little character named Sonic the Hedgehog who has been fortunate enough to reach his 29th year of history. 29 is a weird age. It's right before your 30th anniversary, which is considered a big deal, so maybe most won't focus on this date as much and just hold out till next year, but I feel like every birthday, especially for franchises, is a big deal. But why Sonic? How did he get to this point? How was he able to survive 29 years of history, especially with not an easy road? Well, I think it's important to take a look at why Sonic the Hedgehog has been around for so long and why he will continue for generations to come. One year removed from 3 decades is a very long time. It's longer than I've been alive, and I'm guessing a majority of you. But that's how this all starts. You. A franchise can't go on without fans. And the special thing about Sonic the Hedgehog is that it has a very passionate fan base. Kids, teenagers, adults, elderly people. There's every kind of Sonic fan out there who grew up with their own version of this character. Whether you like the classic version, the Dreamcast version, the movie version, or the Boom version, there's so many different Sonics out there that you can enjoy. I've said this so much on my channel, so I'm not going to give it a big build up, but I do want to say, Sonic is a multimedia franchise. I know, it's not like I've ever said that before, but when you have a character that taps into so many different forms of media, there's so many different kinds of people that will gravitate towards that form of media. With the hundreds of Sonic the Hedgehog comic books that have released over 20 years, there's so much story, character development, and material to go over that there's no way you can get bored of it. Think about it. The main Sonic the Hedgehog comic line, Sonic Universe, the Knuckles spin-off, Sonic X, Sonic Boom, and the IDW comics that are going on right now that also have spin-offs. It's so much stuff, and you see why there's such a large following for it. Fans have their own stories and reasons for liking certain things. Maybe they found it in a grocery store and it was their first Sonic item ever. They read it and they fell in love with the character. Or it's just weird people who really want to have sex with Sally Acorn. Sonic is just as much a comic book character as he is a video game character. While I'm sure video game fans and comic book fans mix a lot, there are people who would just read comic books and they wouldn't have become Sonic fans otherwise. This translates to other stuff too, like TV shows. With the 5 TV shows Sonic has had over the course of his life, they were all bound to catch multiple fans per week while airing. The thing is that these shows air all the time. They have new episodes that come out routinely, and when they're not new episodes coming out, there are reruns. All it takes is one kid to walk into a room or flip through a channel, see a colorful cartoon animal, fall in love with the character, and become a fan from that point on. And as I'm sure a lot of you know, 5 TV shows is a lot, and some went on for a decent amount of time. Sonic Boom produced around a series worth of episodes in one season, and then they gave it a second season. Sonic X was extremely popular, specifically in the United States, being so popular over here that the Japanese-based production company gave us a 3rd season due to its success. For whatever reason, Sonic X in particular gained a very large following. I'd say out of the shows, this one was the most popular even though it didn't get the most episodes, but I feel the main reason for that being is Chris. Chris is a blank slate, and I feel like a lot of fans were able to project themselves into Chris, almost imagining themselves as that character hanging out with Sonic and friends. Then you had the D cartoons, which played throughout the 90s, all had different styles to attract different types of people, and another form of non-video game related media is of course the one and only movie. We all know the story of the movie in terms of its redemption and how much of a success it was to where it spawned a sequel. Needless to say, it spawned a lot of fans, and while they're not vocal enough to express that through the internet yet, they will be coming out of the woodworks eventually to express how this movie impacted them. They're just a little too young right now. If you want an example of this, I would point towards Star Wars. The prequels were largely hated, and they still kind of are, but kids around my age who grew up with the prequels started saying, hey, we kind of like these, and a large audience and fan base for the prequels grew. Same would apply to Sonic the Hedgehog and any fan of any franchise, basically. Once when the sequel comes out, I'd say things will still be relatively the same when it comes to fans in different subdivisions, but I'd say if we get a 3rd movie or maybe a 4th movie, you'll start seeing a giant Sonic movie fan base, even more than you're seeing right now. From an outsider's perspective, it seems like Sonic's tapped into everything, and He kind of has. It's just been spaced out across 30 years, so it doesn't seem as chaotic. But then you got the complex one, the video games. What Sonic the Hedgehog started off as, and still is basically what his central identity is. However, what should be Sonic the Hedgehog's bread and butter has turned into a complex, mediocre mess of confusion, infighting, and overall division, not only in the fanbase, but Sega. It's a form of entertainment and media that, while Sonic the Hedgehog was formed inside of, might not be his central identity forever. The reason tying back into everything that we've talked about. You have so many different forms of media that have different types of fan bases and have created new fans, but with video games, it's just one form of media that has created so many. You have classic fans who may think that the modern and Dreamcast Sonic aren't the real Sonic, and that the last good Sonic game was Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and we haven't had a good one until Mania. Then you have the adventure fans who spawn around SA1 and 2, and maybe even Heroes. They think that Sonic should be fully 3D, and that there should be deep stories and lore. They think it's the pure Sonic, and that no other version of this character can top it, unless they follow that template. Then you have the modern fans, and I don't know, they're pretty chill. It's created this toxic environment, and with an already partially toxic Sonic community, and the video game community as a whole being somewhat toxic from an outsider's perspective, me being one of them, I'm not necessarily considered a gamer, it's created such an unhealthy divide. But if you think that this negative doesn't have a positive, you're mistaken, because there has to be balance in every situation. The good part of this that I feel like a lot of people don't understand or fail to realize is the fact that this thing called reincarnation is a good thing. I feel like progress and understanding of that progress is good and is key for healthy discussion and further progress as a community and society as a whole, not just with Sonic the Hedgehog, just in general. Listen to others and understand their perspective. Something that plenty of other communities and fan bases have come to accept is that their beloved character is going to have to be reshapen for a new generation to progress as a character and franchise. Take a look at characters like Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, Ninja Turtles, Transformers. It's something that our community has struggled with, particularly with the video games. When it comes to character design, stylistic changes, whether that's the story, art style, characterization, writing, everybody has their own preference, and sometimes it's hard for people to move on from what is their favorite. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand people not liking certain gameplay styles, and that's 100% fine. I'm not saying they even should change up gameplay styles, because sometimes it's just factually bad. Gameplay/controls in the adventure games, or even Sonic Generations, are factually better than the controls and gameplay in Sonic Forces. But whether it's objectively good or bad or not is irrelevant. The simple truth is that it needs to change, and it needs to revolve every couple 5 or 10 years. This helps create a new branch of Sonic the Hedgehog fans, favorite versions of these characters and their own favorite stories. It's a cycle. You've heard of the Sonic cycle? Well, it's kind of bullshit. Every Sonic game has a different cycle. Sonic Forces was not received well before its launch. Big voices in the Sonic the Hedgehog community like Twip, Premi to Remy, or just fans in general on Twitter, gaining more relevance around that time, were very vocal about the fact that the game didn't look that hot. Same thing applied with Sonic Boom partially, and then you got the actual Sonic cycle that people like to say, like Sonic Lost World. But then you got games like Sonic Generations, which people were excited for before and after. But the Sonic cycle is actually a different thing. The Sonic cycle relates to the fans more than the games. My Sonic cycle works like this: new Sonic, new fan, rinse, repeat. That's it. It's very simple. There's a new Sonic that comes along, a new wave of fans come along with it. Whether that's a new video game or a new piece of media, there are new fans every time. While they might be silent at first, they're very large, and they grow fast. As they grow older, get social media, get YouTube channels, become older and more mature, they'll start being more vocal, and they'll make their voices heard. Perceptions will change over time. People have shrunk on certain games like Colors, and people have grown on games like Sonic Unleashed. Maybe some games will just be perceived as really bad all the time, like Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric. Sonic the Hedgehog is associated with the term evergreen franchise, a franchise that will go on for almost ever, thanks to being carried on the back and shoulders of Sonic the Hedgehog fans, passionate creatives, all the different creative outlets they can use Sonic in, and also the extensive history of all of the different media. Sonic the Hedgehog is just an evergreen franchise. You can try to kill him as much as you can, but it just simply won't happen. Even if Sonic the Hedgehog just stopped putting out video games and it was just everything else, he would be just fine. There was no TV show, video game, correlating comic book to go along with the movie. The movie was just the movie, and it did great. No matter how many times you try to bring that little blue guy down, he'll get up again. Because thanks to you, Sonic the Hedgehog will never die.